if you dominate UP, you basically dominate the likelihood of forming a majority in the union government in the Lok Sabha. So I think this election is going to be a game-changing election.
After pandemic, the conversation around who will challenge this dominant BJP, what will be the opposition unity question, this is picking up. This debate, this conversation is picking up. Rajesh Jain survey says that Mr. Modi remains the most popular. Number two is Rahul Gandhi, and there is a huge gap. What kind of opposition unity, if at all, you see? What kind of unity you see? And do you think it will be this time led by the regional forces and not the Congress party?
So let me go a bit on a limb. At the end of the day, I think this definition that India is really a continent masquerading as a country is probably the most apt definition. Each of our states, at least the bigger ones, we are 70, 80 million people. The UP is 200 million. Bihar is 80 or 100 million, even after splitting Chhattisgarh, so forth. So we are looking at places that are equal to countries. They were divided in the first place based on language. They have different history, they have different culture, they have different diet, they have different development, they have different per capita income, they have different education, they have everything that's different. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons we have so strongly opposed the Hindi imposition and we have stuck to our language is that we don't want to end up like Bihar, where your own language is wiped out and Hindi becomes kind of the homogenizing, generic making kind of language. But why I say that is, if you take the non-Hindi belt, if you take all the way on both sides the coast, I mean, there's a slight exception in Karnataka, but Karnataka, is kind of wavering. It's not clearly, the BJP had to come through the back door. Now that government also is shaking. But if you start from Maharashtra and you go, Maharashtra all the way down and up, and you leave out the Northeast, because the Northeast, in my opinion, whoever controls the union controls the Northeast, right? They are so dependent on the union for money. 80-90% of their budgets come from the union, from taxes taken from places like Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, who are huge net taxpayers. But whoever controls the union can effectively control those states. And if you're mercenary politicians like the leaders of the current BJP, then they can buy their way to power whenever they are in power and the money is in their hands. So I leave the Northeast out. I don't think that's reflective of anything other than who is in power today and who controls the purse strings. But if you take the rest of the country, from Bengal to Maharashtra, all along the coast, and if you go towards the north, Punjab, now Uttarakhand, not Uttarakhand,
Punjab, Haryana, Himachal.
Punjab, Himachal, and Jammu and Kashmir. The BJP is at best wavering on the edge or clearly not in the right place, right? I mean, in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Orissa, and all that, they're not. And in Bengal, as my friend Prashant Kishore sent me the data, this margin of victory for the average TMC candidate in Bengal is the biggest margin of any assembly constituency in any state in the history of India. So there are clearly, wherever there is a non-Hindi, where there is still identity left, where there's still culture left that has not been homogenized, then the BJP is a relative non-entity or a marginal player, or at best, a kind of second-tier player. It is really these 4 or 5 or 6 states, particularly UP and Bihar, and even Bihar, I mean, Bihar, with the full force of the union government, with all of the resources they brought to bear, with the full cooperation of the courts and the election commission, the NDA was managed to win by 0.12% or something of the vote against a 31-year-old leader of the opposing segment. It's not as if they got a rousing mandate or anything like that. And then 20-30 MLA constituencies, the Form 20 is still not issued, or it was not issued for months after the election. So in my mind, that is also effectively a rigged election. So I'm saying This notion that somehow there's invincibility arises from the population weighting in places like the Hindi belt and starting with UP.
Right.
And UP has 80 MPs. If you win UP, if you dominate UP, you basically dominate the likelihood of forming a majority in the union government, in the Lok Sabha. So this is a structural problem. I think the advent of the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Home Minister has exacerbated and exposed how dangerous the situation is, or how skewed this situation is, that you could have hundreds of millions of people who have no interest whatsoever. I mean, let's not forget, after all of this is said and done, the BJP in the 2019 election got 37% of the vote, and with their NDA partners together was something like 44 or 45. It was not a 70% majority. It was not never seen in the history of time. It was not even a simple majority for the coalition, let alone for the BJP. When we won the 2019 election in Tamil Nadu, our coalition had 52.5 or 52.6% of the seat. We had gone past simple majority, and the opposition had gone down to 30%. So we won by a 22.6% margin. That we consider dominant. That's not what the NDA is. So I think we are heading to the situation in the country where this disconnect between what the educated, multilinguistic, high social development, or relatively high social development, relatively kind of inclusive culture, non-Hindi speaking states are going to find increasingly that we are marginalized. So I think this election is going to be a game-changing election. I'm talking about 24. Of course, UP will tell us a lot, right? But it is what it is. But I'm saying things change all the time. The wind changes. We won the MP elections by 22 point something percent. We only won the MLA elections by 5 point something percent. So things change all the time. And as they say, a week is a lifetime in politics. 2 or 3 years is many lifetimes.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see this 2024 election. One of two things is going to happen. Either we're going to go towards a more coalition, regional party inclusive kind of government like we had in the UPA days and in the the days before that, when we had the Gujrals and the Devagowdas and the Chandrasekhars and the VP Singhs and so forth. Obviously with the Congress, or you're going to find you're back in this game. Now I'll make a second prediction. If the first doesn't happen, if we don't get to a regional coalition, whatever, then I think the next 5 years are going to be even more tumultuous. Because all these engines, all these ascendancies, as you know, historically, as Gandhi says, sooner or later they all fall.
Yeah.
The higher you go, the harder and faster you fall. So nothing is forever, right? I just wonder whether 24 is the pendulum swinging back, or it's going to take longer than that. But whichever way it goes, only a matter of time. This is not a sustainable model that we have here. It's where increasing concentration towards a place that wants to push everybody to the lowest common denominator is not a sustainable model. And maybe if you're a country of 5 or 8 or 10 million people, you can get away with doing that. Right. In a country of 1.4 billion people, with very, very powerful and articulate state leaders, state politicians, I don't think that is a long-term sustainable model.
We are truthful, unafraid and independent because of you. Now you can help our reporting from the ground. Go to thequint.com, click Become a Member tab, choose a plan and pay. Because the truth is worth it.